Hey there everybody, welcome to the stairs masterclass of all awesomeness, yay. What I really mean is, this is a quick and easy way to make stairs, and it keeps your spacing right and it keeps your stairs all even. So I like another stairwell you've seen me fit in if you've watched any of the habitation blog videos or stuff where the stairs have been a bit uneven. This is a way of bypassing that problem. So first of all, the anatomy of stairs. In this instance, what I've got is I'm using 16mm depth. That's this edge here for well, the depth, width, whatever you want to call it. Really, should be width actually of these stairs. Width is normally the short side, length is normally the long side, and depth is normally the elevation from there to there. So actually it should be 16mm width. 16mm width, in this case I think I'm using 47mm length. So each of these stairs is 47mm from end to end. It's because of the size of the gap that I'm fitting them into. Also because I'm building this stairwell so that anything on a 40 to 45mm base can also go up it. The way this works is you have one of these. So each sort of L shape is formed by you have a riser essentially at the back edge of each of these, and then they are joined on at the same depth at every point. So you can build an entire stairwell like this, pre-made, ready to go, and you can just sort of see how it all links up. And it makes your life so much easier because you actually have your stairs pre-made. You just put in the whole block as a single unit. And you can make these much faster, much more efficiently, and much more accurately like this, and then fitting in each piece as you go. Here's the steps. They're 47mm by 16mm. Now they're not quite identical. And what I've done here is I've already marked on 8mm back from the leading edge of each step. So this creates the conformity. And I've put them in the right order so that I know to flip them over because they're not all exactly the same size, and the variation is so minimal that you won't really notice once they're assembled. But I want the 8mm line to be consistent. So the next thing to do is to assemble the risers. So these are the risers, and they will need to be mounted on a flip side, making sure to flip over this way and mount it to the back edge, so I'm always mounting to the back edge. These do not have to be pretty. What they do is they fulfill their function, which is to act as the riser, as you saw in the video. And then this line, and I'm marking this line on before putting the risers on, because once the risers are on, it's just a pain, it's a nuisance to put the line on. So you want to have these all marked up before you start putting risers on. I've already made this mistake. Now I'm telling you not to make it, so don't make it. Don't be dumb like me. So this is how I'm making risers, and this is just a note on splitting down very narrow pieces of well, powderite in this instance. It's a soft enough material to cut in this way any sort of what's it called, like foam sheets or styrene sheets or what have you. Foam board, not foam, foam board, where you have like the paper front, paper back, foam core, or styrene, as in sort of plastic styrene, which you can score and snap actually, but scoring and snapping leaves a messy edge. But in this case, using a palette, or if I was using foam, just score in where you want the cuts to be. Then you can use the scoring, I mean I scored it pretty deep as you can see, to actually start splitting. And once you split it out one side on all of them, again you see these don't have to be mega pretty because these will be hiding in the recesses at the back of the stairs. And once you split one side, just flip it around, split the other side. Sorry if everything's getting really dark. It's my rubbish lighting setup. I don't have nice expensive lights. Maybe one day. Maybe one day. But this just enables you to, once you've scored it using a steel rule, it's just otherwise you find yourself pressing a steel rule, stuff starts going everywhere. Just keep turning around and splitting until they all come to pieces. And once they come to pieces, it's really quick and easy. Okay, so attaching risers. When you're attaching risers, one thing you need to make sure is that everything is flush. So I recommend you put them on the side like this, so when you're attaching your next one, it'll be as flush as possible, because you're allowing the surface to dictate the angle, which is allowing for the closest to flush you're going to get. Also, if you have, like you notice these risers, some of them are not quite the right width, put them furthest into the recesses, furthest out of sight, so that you don't have to like fill in all the gaps. And then when you're fitting them, put glue along the edge of the riser, carefully line up, and then let your work area do the work for you. And then just keep on doing this, adding and adding until you've got all of the risers for this set of stairs all in place. And it will leave you with the closest to even you can get very quickly. If you want to be super anal and have the most immaculate, fantastic one, then you probably want to overshoot slightly with all of these bits so that they're all sticking out over the edge. Trim them off, sand them back. That will give you the smoothest finish. Maybe even make the overall width slightly wider than the thing. So again, you're trimming back, sanding back in order to get the most immaculate finish. But time is the issue there. Okay, so it's the final stare down, and just remember when you're doing your stair elevations and whatever depth of material it is, try and work it out so you've got a riser at the bottom and a riser at the top, so that you always have a spacer between the ground and between the top floor. And if anything, I would go for missing out the riser on the ground rather than at the top, because it won't look so bad and you don't need to squeeze a miniature in underneath at the bottom, whereas at the top you may well still want to squeeze the base of a miniature in underneath. Also, in making these, everything's 3mm depth, that's the depth of material I've got, but it's also the same depth as my bases, so do take into account that different base sizes will have different effects. So for instance, this is a standard infinity base. That will fit underneath. So your 3mm rise does seem to be okay. I'm just going to check something else a second. This is your standard GW base. Well, that also fits. So yeah, in principle at least, you can fit any old thing underneath. It's 3mm, but you might want to do 4mm, and you might want to do them slightly deeper than I've been doing them. So you might want to go for 20mm depth or 20mm width on the steps, so that the riser is set 10 or 12mm back, so that the depth of the riser is coming a few more forward. Because remember, when you're putting the risers in, the line that you mark on the thing is actually the back edge of the riser, because it's easier to see, easier to match up. So I hope it's been some use to you, and you now know everything you need to know and ever wanted to know about how to make stairs for models. Take into account this isn't how to fit them, but this will fit very easily. You just have to slot it into the gap that you've built it for. Do remember that you don't just build stairways arbitrarily, you build them to fit specific areas, so make sure you've measured your gap and that you've chosen a floor ceiling variation which is correct. Also remember to take into account the depth of material, so if you've got an 80mm elevation but you have 3mm into that 80mm for the depth of material from the roof line, because the roof line is, or the floor line of the floor above, is actually 80mm up from the ground, and then it's got a base inside, and maybe you've got the base, so the base is inside the 80mm, so that's a total of 6mm, so you actually only got a 74mm gap rather than an 80mm gap. So just make sure you measure everything carefully and that you take into account all of those variables. I hope this has been of some use to you. Remember to enjoy your modelling, take care and have a good one. Thank you everybody, bye bye.